check out Ammo Squared. Because panic buying is for amateurs, with Ammo Squared, you can automatically stockpile ammunition without the hassle of pricey one-time purchases or needing to worry about storage. Ammo Squared offers automated ammunition stockpiling and effortless online inventory management, 100% guaranteed ammunition inventory with secure, climate-controlled storage, over 70-plus caliber variations from over 85 ammunition manufacturers, and over 111,000 members, backed by over 1,000 five-star reviews. Get ammo when you want it, automatically or on demand. With the Ammo Squared referral program, you can get $25 in ammo purchases free when you use our link. Click Join today on our profile and spend at least $20 in the first 30 days, and you will receive a $25 credit automatically applied to your account. Go to ammo2.me/fraternal outdoors or find the link in the show notes.
All right. Hello and welcome to the Fraternal Outdoors podcast. We are super happy to have Elizabeth Kligge here today. I hope I'm saying your last name right there. And she is the Director of Hunter Recruitment with the National Deer Association. So based on what I've read and what I've heard on your background, it seems like there's a pretty broad subject matter we could cover with you. You've led a pretty interesting life getting to the position you're at now, and I'd love to hear more on it. So if you want to do a quick little intro on yourself, and then we'll kind of take it back to upbringing, if you're okay with that.
Sure. So like you said, I'm the Director of Hunter Recruitment for the National Deer Association. I started hunting as an adult, maybe, I always say 10 years, so it can't still be 10 years, but somewhere around there. And I had previously gone to survival school, which I guess was sort of one of the catalysts that got me involved in attempting hunting. You know, not coming from a hunting background, not having friends who hunted. Even at survival school, I really didn't have friends who hunted, so surprisingly. But that would be one of the catalysts, you know, being a lifelong nature lover, and all these just different seeds were planted at different times in my life that ended up combining at the, the right time and the right place. And I found Mentor, and he brought me up to his cabin, and I started hunting up in like the coal regions of Pennsylvania. I don't know where you guys are from, but do you know Centralia?
Yeah.
So Eli's from northern Pennsylvania, and I'm from southern tier New York, up now in the northern tier of New York.
Yeah, I'm right like where the Potter County, McKean County, and the New York state border kind of make a T there.
Okay.
So that's a pretty good place for deer hunting, I can say that much. So
yeah, a lot of deer cabins up there. Yeah, I started hunting at this cabin that was owned by a friend of mine, and that was 10, 12 years ago or so. And one thing led to another, and now I'm working for the National Deer Association.
That's awesome. Talk to me more about the primitive skills stuff. You were also an instructor, right? You weren't just a participant.
Yeah, so I started as a student, and I had picked up a book that the lead instructor there had written called The Tracker, and I was fascinated by his tracking skill and his primitive living skills. And in the back of the book, it was like, oh, by the way, we have a school in New Jersey. And I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. And I knew the town. It was where one of my friends lived. So I went and checked it out, and I was like, yeah, I definitely have to do this. So I attended as a student at first, became a volunteer after that, and that led to an internship, which was like a 6-month stint traveling with the school around the country, helping to teach, cooking, a little bit of everything. And then I became a caretaker in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey, looking over the camp there for a year. I lived in a primitive shelter, just like a leaf hut. We called it the Hobbit home. It had like a little tiny door that you had to kind of like scrunch down and shimmy through.
That's awesome.
And
Cool.
I sort of overlapping all those things, started teaching there, and then they would bring me in as a guest instructor sometimes. I would do hide tanning lectures, edible wild plants, primitive cooking, tracking, camouflage, all kinds of stuff.
That's
That's
really
very
cool.
cool. Now you said hide tanning. Now you had in a period of time been a vegetarian in your life. Is that correct? So
Yes.
were you
So
hide tanning before or after your vegetarian?
it was during. Yeah, there's an
During.
overlap there. So yeah. So I didn't grow up vegetarian. I started doing that in high school and college because I really liked animals, and I had this idea, if you like animals, don't kill them. So I did that through high school and college, and then the primitive skills came after that. So I started survival school as a vegetarian, and even through being vegetarian there, I was still learning these skills. I was learning about brain tanning. I was learning about hunting and these things. So when I started brain tanning, I was still vegetarian, and I was still eating vegetarian, but I was picking up roadkill deer. So it's kind of a strange combination.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I had a friend who was picking them up with me, and he used to work at a wolf sanctuary where they
Hmm.
would pick up roadkill deer also, quarter them up, and toss them over the fence for the wolves. So he knew a little bit about butchering, and he knew how to identify the fresh roadkills, and he would cook up venison for himself from roadkills. And then one day I was over and he was cooking up some, and he was like, why don't you try this? Like, no one hurt this animal on purpose. It was just laying there. So um, I tried it, and I thought it was pretty good, and it was like just like a free source of protein just laying on the side of the road. Why not pick it up? So I
Yeah, it's a
started doing that for
fair
yeah,
guilt-free way to
yeah,
re-enter the realm of eating
totally,
meat.
yeah. And there was a lot of it. There was so much of it. We were sort of like on a backcountry road. It was backcountry enough to have a lot of deer, but trafficked enough to have a lot of deer collisions. So it was like, we would go out on a Friday night and just like cruise back and forth and be like, oh, that deer wasn't there last time we came by, and pick it up and throw it in the
One
vehicle.
one for the wolves, one for us. One for the wolves.
Yes, yes, yeah.
I feel like
And there
the
were
roads
plenty of
I travel to
people.
work are not dissimilar in traffic and
Yeah.
deer.
So
Today was
yeah, there were a lot of people who wanted to share the meat, so there was always a reason to pick up more roadkill, and really not a reason to hunt because we had so much roadkill. So the
Sure.
whole time I was actually at survival school, I didn't hunt.
that's really cool. Actually, it's when you're looking at roadkill. I'm just curious. How do you identify ones that are still fresh enough to eat, as opposed to ones like obviously if they're bloated, they're not probably safe to eat. But like, how
Smell's
do
a
you
pretty
tell
quick
it's?
indicator.
Yeah, we used to do like this test. Like if their legs like this, it's okay, and if the wider they are, the older they are. But our real test, and I can't give any official advice on this, but
No, no. I'm
we
just
would put our hand we would put our hand in like the armpit of the deer, and if it was still radiating body heat, we would say, okay, it hasn't been here that long.
yeah.
There you go.
If it's not in rigor and the body heat's still pretty high, it's fairly fresh.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I've never done it on purpose. Like I've eaten one or two things that were hit by a car, but most of the time it was I witnessed it be hit by a car,
Yeah, all
as
of them that I've
opposed
eaten, I've witnessed,
as opposed to finding it. I've always
Yeah.
happened
or
upon a scene
been
where
the unfortunate operator of the vehicle when it happened. But
I'm surprised I've not hit a deer yet. I'm so surprised.
I've only hit a couple, and I should knock on some wood for that one because I've got a lot of deer around here that are constantly in the roads.
I've had a deer hit me. I've never hit a deer.
I've
I
had
had a
that
deer
too.
hit me when I was in a stationary vehicle.
We were
It was
traveling, but it just came into the road and T-boned us. There's
yeah.
no damage to the vehicle, but I was young in the passenger seat. My dad was driving. It startled the heck out of me because it was smashing it. It was running alongside us after it hit us and like hit us a few more times before it peeled off. Wow. But Yeah. So, when did you pick up hunting, I guess?
This podcast is brought to you in part by Find a Way Outdoors. Find a Way Outdoors is a small business that's making big waves in the outdoor space. If you're a turkey hunter, you need to check them out. They offer a full catalog of diaphragm turkey calls, and new to the lineup are several offerings of custom friction calls. The owner, Garrett Babcock, personally sources his materials and hand makes every call, so you know that you are getting a quality product that he personally signed off on. I've had the pleasure of being around Garrett, and he's a serious outdoorsman who expects the best performance out of his equipment, and he puts those same expectations on his own products. If you are in the North Central PA area, you can also see Garrett for additional services like fan mounts and displays, or deer skull cleaning and hydro dipping to take that trophy to the next level. Check out Find a Way Outdoors on any of their social media by searching Find a Way Outdoors, or go to findawayoutdoors.shop to get your new favorite turkey call today. I can personally speak for the diaphragm calls as well. I have always had a terrible time and had basically given up on mouth calls because I spent more time gagging rather than calling every time I tried using them. But after trying Find a Way Outdoors mouth calls, I am back in the game. The calls sit more comfortably in your mouth, and I didn't even have to trim them. As an unskilled caller, going from being unable to use them to actually making turkey noises was a huge leap in my game, and a testament to the quality and design that goes into these things. I definitely recommend going onto the site and finding the right call for you. Findawayoutdoors.shop.
So this would be, I was at survival school for about 5 years or so. And then afterward, I came back home, and I guess I was looking around online for different survival groups near where I lived. And I found one through meetup.com. And, the organizer wasn't too far from my house. And I started showing up at these events. They'd have different themes, like we're going to purify water today, or we're going to, weave a fish, a gill net today or something. And I started showing up, and, he got to figure out that I knew some stuff. So I became an organizer too. And one weekend, one of the other organizers was like, hey, I want to take a small group of you up to my hunting cabin for a weekend and just play around. And he brought like crossbows, compound bows, rifles, shotguns, like all this stuff that I had never touched before, because I was all primitive skills.
Yeah.
And this was all like modern stuff.
That was one of the big questions I'm sorry, Elizabeth. I was gonna say I was curious where you started. Was it archery? Was it firearms? Was it spear? How did you start off?
I started off with rifle. So I started hunting that same season. I started hunting deer and squirrel, both with rifle. I don't think I had purchased a crossbow yet. It was probably like the next year or so. So
started off kind of on squirrel as your starting learning, and then like into that deer season, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's cool. That's
a lot of hiking, a lot of walking, a lot of seeing deer. I think I did have a crossbow that first year, because I spent the whole season trying to get one with a crossbow and couldn't because of all the mountain laurel. And I didn't have like a tree stand or anything. I was just walking, and it's like trying to shoot through this.
Yeah.
And I wanted to take ethical shots only, so I wasn't going to do that. So it was a struggle. It was a worthwhile struggle, and I did get a deer finally, like way at the end of the season.
You went right to hard mode trying to hunt on the ground with a crossbow. That's a feat I've never done. I've never killed a deer on the ground with a crossbow. That's something.
I was just using what I had, so.
Actually, I don't even know. No, I've never killed a deer with a crossbow. I've shot one with a compound. That's all I've ever done for side rifle.
Yeah, I'm primarily rifle as well. Our other co-host, Adam, that is pretty busy with twins and hasn't been on forever. He's the archery guy in our little group here. When you did your first hunt, was it mentored in the sense that you had somebody like with you, or did you go solo when you were going out on those hunts?
It wasn't like mentored in like a you got to do this right now, but oftentimes we'd walk out together, or sometimes we'd walk out separately and kind of meet up on the other side of something. Um, there was a lot of ground behind this cabin. It was like a reclaimed strip mine area, and it was private land, but the whole town was like able to use it, and like they rode their ATVs back there and everything, and it just seemed pretty endless, like in terms of like how far you could walk without hitting a road. And so we would just walk out there for hours all day, day
That's
after day, week after week.
pretty that's pretty neat. So you really didn't have when you say mentoring, then it was more of a, I don't want to say a at a distance type of mentoring, but it wasn't necessarily, somebody wasn't right there with you explaining every step. It was, here's the general idea, here's the general rules. I'll see you on the other side,
No.
kind of.
I came into this kind of an unusual way because I had come from survival school. I had picked up sort of like the skills of hunting before. Like I knew how to find deer. Um, I knew
The
how to
tracking side of
track.
things.
I knew how to field dress and butcher and skin a deer and
That's a
all
really
these all
unique
these
way to come
things.
about it. You knew how to field dress a deer before you shot a deer. That's
Yeah.
usually
So
the
by the
opposite.
time by the time I started hunting, really the only part I hadn't really done yet was pull a trigger.
That's neat. That's a definitely, like you said, that's a different way of looking at it.
Mhm.
Yeah, because it seems like I haven't mentored a ton of hunters, but those that I have, it's usually, taking the life's one thing, and for some people that hurdle's greater than others. But then the next thing is like almost a sense of overwhelm of, oh, now how do I treat this? What do I do with it? Where
Yeah.
do I cut? What's safe? What's not? I don't want to poke the belly if it's not already ruptured. They're very worried. And you came to that with a whole different perspective.
I went backwards. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very helpful, and it kind of informs me about different ways to hunt or help other people learn, because you do the hard part first and then the hunting part's easy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
being experienced, do you find that's an easier way now to, like, if you have the opportunity to bring somebody in prior to the actual hunt and kill, is it better to actually bring them in on the butcher side first, do you find? Are people a little more
I
comfortable if you
haven't
bring them in that way?
I haven't had the opportunity to completely bring someone in on that side first, but it is sort of like integrated at our Field of Fork programs. Like we might send you out for your first sit, but then when you come in, we're going to do a field dressing demonstration. And then you
Yeah.
might go out for another sit, and then we'll do a butchering demonstration. So it's a little bit like um, just kind of woven together like that.
Yeah, they run concurrently almost. If you happen to get
Mhm.
a deer, awesome, but otherwise you're still going to learn.
Yeah.
That's a unique way of looking at it. I like that. That's kind of cool.
It's probably better than what I've been doing with it's always the first person that wants help gutting a deer every season. They do not get the best version of me as a teacher. I I very much have the figure it out mentality for the first poor person that does it, and then the next person I'm like, oh, I should do better, and much better at providing pointers and tips. But the first person of the season that asks me for help, I'm like, it's all got to come out.
You just cut it and pull it,
Yeah.
and there we go.
Uh,
And I've seen a few too many people poke themselves with the knife going around the diaphragm, so I'm much more of a ripper than a cutter when it comes to pulling the guts out of my animals, and that throws some people for a loop sometimes.
it's definitely unique when especially if you're not used to it. Like when you go to pull on the diaphragm muscle or pull on the esophagus, the windpipe. That could be definitely confusing for somebody that watches you do it, Eli, and it's just pull and you're done. But then they grab on and they're like, "This doesn't pull so easy." A
Mhm.
little different doing than actually watching.
Yeah. Well, it depends on where it's hit too. Sometimes it's a lot easier. Certain hits yield themselves to just pulling out easier. Let's talk about how you started getting involved with National Deer Association. Like, what did that look like?
So I had previously been working as a video editor of medical training videos, completely separate. I'm actually an art major, so I've done a little bit of this and that over the years. And a lot of the work was disappearing in the editing world. So I just started thinking, I'm going to see what jobs are available out there. I was doing the usual job search things, looking on Indeed and stuff like that. And there was really nothing calling to me. I'm reading all this stuff, and it's like, I can't really see myself doing that or that or that. And it was just like, ugh. And then one day I was like, I'm going to look at the National Deer Association employment page if they have one. And I went on the website and I found the little link, and they had just posted a job, and it was for Southeast Pennsylvania, which is where I live, and it was teaching new adult hunters, which was something that I was already planning on doing. I had actually gone into the NDA store and bought all these educational materials because I was teaching workshops through meetup.com. I had done a lot of wild edible plant tours and stuff like that. And I said, you know what? I've done a few too many wild edible plant tours. I want to start teaching people how to hunt. Like I learned, just coming at it without having any family or friends who do that.
Yeah.
And so I started trying to, piece together like a PowerPoint, and I had like posters and books and different educational materials. And then I see this job posting, and it's like, we want someone who lives in Southeast Pennsylvania to teach adults who don't come from hunting families how to hunt. And I was like, yeah, I want to do that.
Pretty good fit.
So,
Yeah,
yeah,
really.
very good fit. I was like, if this isn't made for me, I don't know what is. So I applied and went, through multiple layers of scrutiny and, interviews and Zoom calls and in-person interviews. So um, I got it in the end. I think they said like 200 people applied or something like that.
Wow. It's a lot of people actually, considering most jobs probably get 50. So you were almost like, it was almost like you like that was almost unknowingly tailored right to you for
Mhm.
expertise. That's really cool. So when you got the job, when they brought you in, what kind of like what you say it was southwest, east Pennsylvania, southeast?
Southeast. I'm like an hour from Philly.
Okay. What region did they ask you to cover as you're part of the National Deer Association? So I'm assuming it's more than just a small region.
Well, it is the National Deer Association, and the association covers the whole country. But I was hired to be the Pennsylvania Field of Fork coordinator.
Gotcha.
So that is a partnership position with the Pennsylvania Game Commission. The Game Commission has a grant that they give us to fund this position, which is now run by Autumn McEntee, who we hired September or October, I think. And so, yeah, I was hired to cover the whole state of Pennsylvania with a focus on Philly because there was a program running there through the John Heinz National Wildlife Refuge, which is a federal national wildlife refuge.
Mhm.
So we have a state agency, federal agency, and nonprofit partnership for that program, and it's the largest one in the state, one of the largest ones in the country, actually. We put, I believe, 80 hunters through that last fall and into this January. And it's a great program. They split it up into multiple weekends. So it's like, I think 4 weekends at John Heinz and then 2 weekends at Benjamin Rush State Park on the other, like the north side of Philly. One's north, one's south. And
That's really cool.
it's a great program. Yeah.
So
We
the
feed them
folks come
venison
from,
every day.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Oh, we feed them venison lunches. We give them the education. We, let them shoot the crossbows. We have all the blinds set up, and then we pair them with mentors, and they go out and try to get a deer. I think at John Hines, they took in about 30 deer harvested this year, and also at Benjamin Rush, an additional 30 deer there. So it was a pretty good success rate for brand new hunters.
Yeah, that's really good. So do folks come from all over? Now, is it just Pennsylvania only, or is it anywhere? Can folks come from New York, New Jersey?
For that particular program, because the Wildlife Refuge is the host, it is their choice to make that a very local program.
Gotcha.
So you have to live in certain zip codes to be drawn in their lottery system.
So those 80 folks, they were all basically from around Philadelphia, and you were able to get 80 people from a rather populous area to have a 60 out of 80 success rate. That's awesome. That's really something.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people trying to get into the program. We get roughly 200 applicants a year. And from that, we have to pick 80. Yeah. And then the other events in the state are mostly for people from Pennsylvania, just because, people would rather buy an in-state, resident license than an out-of-state license. But occasionally we get people who come over from New Jersey or something because they don't mind paying the extra cost. And then Field to Fork as a program is all over the country, but that's just Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so each individual state has its own Field to Fork program that they can get an in-state license and try to coordinate through those programmers.
Yeah, so we've been in, I think, up to maybe 17 or 18 states over the years. Thousands of people have gone through the program. And our whole goal is just hunter recruitment, keeping that conservation machine, that North American model of wildlife, keeping it going because of you need new hunters to buy those licenses, buy that gear, get those Pittman Robertson funds, funneled into conservation efforts. And that's all, hunter number based.
Yeah.
So outside of doing a specifically Field to Fork program, what other programs or other methodologies do you use to try and bring in new hunters?
So we have an online Deer Hunting 101 course. And because there isn't that in-person need to pair them, one-to-one with a mentor, we can reach a ton more people through that course. Let me check my stats here. We have put.
I was just curious to see how do you guys try to even going as far as finding people? Do you try to find people, or is it mostly trying to have people who have a mild interest to come to you? A little bit of both.
We have a database that we keep. There's actually like a form you can fill out on our website if you're interested in participating, either as a new hunter or a mentor or a landowner. So we have that. And then our online course, we can reach a lot more people that way. We had 13,000 students about take that last year. So we have like an incredible reach through that. I mean, the internet is just so easy to reach so many people.
That's really cool. Like I say, Eli, do you want to throw, or I guess Elizabeth, can you want to throw a plug for the website in so that when we're doing this, we can also put it up,
Sure.
share it with folks, anybody that listens on our end. There may be folks that are still interested, that maybe they're interested in a 101 course or a sign-up course to get involved.
Yeah, if you go to our website, it's www.deerassociation.com, and click on the menu, go down through programs, I believe, and you'll see all our Learn to Hunt and Field to Fork resources there.
Awesome. Thank you.
You guys have a free membership level now, right? That mostly just gets you into the newsletter and gets you a lot of the articles and information.
Yeah, we have a blog with a ton of information on it. Some of it is, for new hunters. Some of it's for experienced hunters. Some of it's for land managers, people who want to improve habitat or just learn fun facts about deer. We have that stuff too.
I find myself reading quite a few of the land management articles for my own property, so I greatly appreciate and do maintain a paid membership.
I'll put a plug in here too for our deer steward courses. We have a level 1, which is online, and a level 2, which is in person. And they're incredible courses, especially the level 2 in person. There's just so much to know about land management and like how to, all the different techniques you can try, all the different ways you measure success is just really interesting. And it's a lot of fun too. It's a very social event, and we all, hang out together for a few days, which we don't get to do a lot as a staff, but then, we get together as a staff there, but then we have also have all these new students there hanging out too. So it's a lot of fun.
And it sounds like a lot.
So it helps add a level from internet to personal. You maybe make a few connections in there and helps make more of a community, which ultimately is part of your goal as well, is to keep the community as well as bring people in.
Definitely. I've definitely have kept in touch with several people that I've met through those courses.
I was bummed I couldn't make it for the prescribed fire thing that Kip Adams did last year. I had a conflict that weekend. I was so bummed because it was like within driving distance. It was at a good time of year for me, but I just had something else that got in the way. Hoping they do it here again in the next year, but I'm keeping my eye out.
We have a Learn and Burn module, Deer Steward module happening this year. I think it's in Virginia.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the way, but yeah.
I think they did. I think they had one in southern, like East Coast, and then they had one in the Midwest. I think, I want to say, because I was kind of keeping an eye, but yeah, I missed the one that was in Pennsylvania, the one that would have been most convenient for me to get to. So now I got to wait until it comes around again.
Yeah.
But being associated with the NDA, are you able to, through some of those connections, go on some pretty cool hunts? I know when we were talking, you had recently gone on a hog hunt.
Yeah. So that's like one of the people that I recruited to mentor at John Hines. I didn't know him at all. I just I saw him on Facebook. He was in a Facebook group that I was in. I gave him a friend request, and he messaged me and he said, "I don't normally accept friend requests from random people, but your profile looks interesting, and I read a little bit about you." And we started talking, and he came and he mentored for the program, and he loved it. And now he comes every year, multiple events, multiple locations. And he knew someone whose father has land in Oklahoma that is overrun with pigs. And he actually wants it to manage it for deer. He actually has an NDA poster hanging in his garage. So I showed up there last year and I was like, hey, I know those people. And so he loves us to come out there and hunt pigs for him. They're tearing up his property. They're, eating everything and leaving holes everywhere. So we help him out. We come home with a lot of wild pork. Mine just
Yeah, it
came
sounds
back
like
from
a symbiotic system there.
Yeah, and it's so much fun.
Yeah, I bet. What I know maybe you can't say because you're part of the National Deer Association, but what's your favorite thing to hunt? Is it deer or is it something else?
It is deer, actually. Yeah. I'm in the right place.
Yeah,
that's good.
makes it fun when you get to do what you love and you get to love to hunt what you work for.
Yeah.
That's pretty
And
cool.
actually, I just was hunting last night and got a deer through our ag tag program.
Nice.
Okay.
I saw your picture on Facebook. I'm like, is that an old one or is she doing something for ag or yeah, interesting.
Yeah, it was ag tag. So in Pennsylvania, we have the agricultural tag program that runs from August 1st until a little bit before the regular season starts. And it picks up again February 1st and goes to April 15th. And that is just farms that have signed up for this program that have crop damage, and they get, only so many tags per year, and I was finally able to connect with some farms that had spare tags and would let me on through, I made at Field to Fork events, people that I brought in to mentor who now trust me and can speak for me and, put in a good word for the farmer. So again, it's that symbiotic relationship. Like I'm helping them out and they're helping me out. And the next year I get is going to be donated through Hunters Sharing the Harvest. So there's a lot of good stuff comes out of it.
Yeah, it makes it fun.
A lot of fun. Yeah. It's hard for me to get out during the regular season because that is when I'm busy working.
Yeah.
So I was like, I need to get into this ag tag program somehow. So took a little while, but I got in.
I imagine it's similar. I've heard it's similar for game wardens that really love the outdoors and they love to hunt and stuff. It's like double-edged sword because the thing you love and the thing you are protecting is also the thing that keeps you busy in the times that you can do it. So
yeah, taxidermists, processors, all these guys don't get a whole lot of time to hunt.
I don't know, all the taxidermists I know kind of put you on the back burner until it's dark out.
Don't worry, they'll call me
how
in
you
4
do
or 5 more months. Yeah, we've had a fun year of Eli and I getting. I'm primarily now a waterfowl hunter. Deer is still something that I do on my family's side, but I'm primarily a waterfowl. Whereas Eli's taken the exact opposite approach. He's more into, well, I shouldn't say more into. He does more
I'm
deer
a generalist.
yeah.
If it's in season, I'm interested if I can make the time.
So it's fun though. Yeah, I know what you're saying about overlapping seasons and being busy. And definitely I've sacrificed more than a few whitetail days in order to chase feathers on the water.
I don't sacrifice rifle season, but it made me feel a lot better how much duck hunting we got in while archery season was going on because I won't go out. I've got a crossbow now, so it's a little bit more approachable, but I won't go out with a compound unless I put a lot of time behind the string, and I don't get the time behind the string, so then I don't go. But I've got plenty of time behind the shotgun at this point, and we've found a few places that we can get in and get a pretty good duck hunt in different areas and some field goose hunting we figured out over the last couple. So our autumns into almost to Christmas are pretty full.
On the flip side of that coin, you did convince me this year to add Pennsylvania to my list of licenses that I have, and so I did actually get down to hunt Pennsylvania deer for the first time in my life this year, and that's something to be said of. We're pushing in a way to try and bring, maybe not necessarily bring more hunters to Pennsylvania, but make the tag worthwhile for me to buy a license and then make it fun to come down and try and spread New York money from myself into the Pennsylvania conservation effort.
It's more license dollars.
More license for you and then more license for me, and it works out and everybody kind of wins at the end because we're just giving more money to protect the things that we love to hunt.
And somebody to help me with my DMAP tags.
Got to be successful to help you, but I'm just there to at least hold a tag.
You were there in moral support, I guess. But on kind of tangenting a little bit, but what Sean and I have both recently helped a few new hunters find their way. My wife, his wife, a mutual friend from our fraternity in college, and we're slowly bringing in some more people on the waterfowl side of things. But what's some maybe some specific to deer and maybe some general advice you would give to folks that are taking out people for the first time, that are trying to show them the wonders that we already know about with the hunting community and the ability to harvest some of your own meat?
Number one, I would say just have fun, make sure that they have a positive experience so that they want to come back, and let them know that, it's okay if you don't get a deer on the first try or the second try. And, there's all kinds of things to enjoy about the experience besides harvesting a deer. Um, I know a lot of people are using like the Merlin app these days and listening to the birds and identifying what's around while they're sitting in the blind. And it's like, oh, I didn't know that kind of bird was here. Or, what's that sound? And
Sometimes.
you do that.
Yeah, sometimes.
And yeah, I mean, and then you see all kinds of other wildlife too, foxes going by and eagles flying around, and it's just nice and it's peaceful. And bring some snacks, some water. If it's cold, make sure they've got hand warmers. If it's hot out, make sure you got bug spray. Just kind of keep them comfortable and make sure they have the right clothes on and that kind of stuff. And shot placement is really important. We go over that a lot. And we've had like huge improvements in our success rates and recovery rates, getting really granular with our shot placement teaching and, having them pinpoint a spot rather than saying just like behind the shoulder. I don't know if you've seen our shot placement videos yet, but we teach, going straight up the front leg, and then it would be
I had,
halfway
yeah.
for through the body for the rifle, and a third of the way up for archery is where you would aim. And our recovery rate skyrocketed when we started teaching it that way.
I learned a valuable lesson this year. So this year was my wife's first year out, and I had to leave her for a while where I put her in a tree stand, and I had to go take one of my deer to the processor. Got a phone call from her. She said, I shot a deer, but it ran off. And I said, oh no, that doesn't sound all that great. Well, I had forgot to mention to her that when you're 20 feet up in a tree and the deer is 5 yards away, the angle of trajectory, you got to compensate for that height. Luckily enough, she actually fragmented a rib into the heart. We got lucky enough to recover very successfully, but I learned what could have been a very valuable mistake to make sure that when you're teaching somebody new about that, to remind them that incline and decline do impact placement as well. It's something that even I've done it, but I've never thought about it, and I've definitely never thought about explaining it to somebody else.
Yeah. We have a 3D model that we show people where there's like a hole through it where you can insert an arrow and you can see where it's going in on the skin, and then flip it around and see where it came out through the organs. So that's a really good teaching tool. These angles are tricky to teach newcomers because sometimes there's just not a real good way to describe it. It's like if you're up high, aim higher on the body. Back far, aim further back on the body.
Which you'd think is kind of counterintuitive to most people when they're thinking about it. Thinking about aiming higher when you're higher and closer when you're in extreme angles. I'm very lucky that my wife got lucky, but I definitely have made myself way more conscious than I used to be.
Now, has she practiced shooting from a tree stand, like into a target?
We've done elevated shooting, but we hadn't ever done anything, that close. This deer was turn around from the tree stand. It was at the base of the tree behind her, so she was shooting inside of 5 yards from probably only 12 to 14 feet up, but the tree stand is also on a hill. So it definitely through the angle, and luckily enough, when she shot, she went through right straight through the center of a rib bone and sent that bone shrapnel down into the deer. And lucky, but it definitely changed my perspective on shot placement, even myself. And I've been doing this since I was old enough to do it.
Yeah, and it's hunting, so it can be a really well placed shot, and a worked up deer might still go way farther than you think it will.
Yeah.
Or my buck last year, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say we have some crazy things happen with bolts too, where you hit the right spot, but then somehow it turns like 90 degrees inside the deer and comes out that way multiple times.
Yeah.
Yep. I lost my first archery deer that way. Shot placement went in, everything looked great. Watched it back on film. We found the deer about 6 months later, and the arrow had turned and was like parallel with the rib cage line down in through the rib cage, and there was no exit wound. And there was almost no blood. And of course, I'd shot it in October, so there was also no snow, no nothing to be super excited about. Yeah, even good placement definitely doesn't always make for an easy recovery.
Yeah, not this last season, but the 23-24 rifle season for whitetail in PA. I opted for a frontal shot on my buck that year, and good placement and good shot, but the organs blocked off the hole and there was no blood trail. Thankfully, I consider myself fairly good at tracking. I had a really hard time on this one, and my tracking might be nothing compared to yours, but I did do some circles and do some tracking and managed to recover it, but there was not a drop of blood until where it died.
Wow.
So you got to be careful, and that's something I usually stress with people is very much, if you fired a shot, you should be spending a considerable amount of time knowing exactly what happened. If you whiffed the shot or not, you need to canvass the area and really know what happened after that shot took place.
Do you video your hunts at all?
We're starting to play with it for our duck hunts, but I've never taken one in the whitetail woods. I've not taken the camera out.
Occasionally, I'll set up my phone to record just so that I can see the shot, just in case something weird happens. I have yet to be able to need to use that footage, but when I can, and I can just set up like a little tripod or something, I like to have some sort of video footage. And for our mentored hunts, I encourage the mentors to video the hunts, just because things happen and people think they see where the arrow went, but that's not necessarily where it went. So a little bit of a backup or second point of view is helpful.
It's very easy to tell yourself a story too after the fact, right? Our minds are somewhat malleable in that way. My buck this year, I try very hard after the shot to take like a azimuth, like a waypoint. Like, okay, I was here I was pointing out this corner of the blind, and there's between these two trees off in the distance, there's this dead tree, and I've got a forward and back azimuth as I make my way out to try and this is the line I need to cut, and somewhere on that I'm going to pick up this deer's track and hopefully find the deer pretty close to it if that's where I was shooting at. So the shot I squeezed through some trees this year was 114 yards, and it's somewhat open timber, but it's timber. And I started walking out, and I was getting kind of close to that dead tree that I'd used as my azimuth. I was starting to, I don't know how I screwed it up, but I screwed it up. I did something stupid. I don't know. I just always beat myself up when when I make a shot and I don't see the deer fall, right? So, and he had fallen behind some trees that I hadn't seen. I got to where I was certain it wasn't any further, and I'm like, well, just upset. And I go to turn around to, retrace my steps and look, maybe he leaped, and I missed the track immediately where I was walking out. And as I turned, he was dead right there. I'm like, oh. But that just goes to show you can really easily tell yourself a story. It's like I double lunged it, and he dropped 10 yards from where I shot him, but I didn't see him fall. So I did it again. I screwed something up, but thankfully I've had a pretty good run. I knock on wood again this podcast, but I've had a pretty good run with my tracking and my kill ratio the last few years. So, but what's something for a mentor that's talking to somebody that's maybe apprehensive about going at all? They're just they're a little curious, but they're not sure they want to commit to buying a license. They're not sure they want to take a hunter safety what's something you'd tell somebody in that on the fence area that you want to just kind of push them over the edge and get them interested enough to buy that license?
I guess it depends on the person. I mean, I'm not like real pushy when it comes to getting people started. It's not really something you want to force people into, but if someone is interested, maybe I would offer them some venison to try if they've never tried venison before. They can always come out on a hunt with me or come scouting or something that's related to hunting without actually having to pick up a weapon. Um, I've had people that I've talked to over the years who are always kind of on that edge of like, yeah, maybe we should go hunting sometime, but it hasn't happened yet. It'll happen at some point, but when they're ready.
Yeah, that
You
seems like a good way to go about it.
I think we really try to find people who are 100% into trying. Because if they're only half into trying, they might not even show up, and that's a problem. So we
gotcha.
want to fill the programs with people who are definitely wanting to come. You might get a couple no shows regardless, but as much as possible, you want to fill the roster with people who intend to be there and are really interested in doing it.
That makes sense. Yeah. You're not going to go out to somebody who has no interest. You're going to talk to somebody that maybe is already interested in the outdoors and then reach from there to maybe broach the subject.
Yeah. So if I wanted to do like maybe an intro to hunting program in the public somewhere, I might hit up like a foraging group or something like that. People who have already shown an interest in wanting to get food from the outdoors that they procure themselves. So there's at least some related interest there. Um, so yeah, but we really don't have a problem finding interested people. We always have more interest than we have places to put people. Really, the harder part is getting enough mentors to pair with them.
I was just about to ask. So what, well, on the flip side, what is the process for trying to recruit mentors to help in this process?
So again, like just like on our website, we have the form you can fill out if you're an interested mentee. We have a form to fill out if you're an interested mentor. That form does not get used as much as the interested new hunters, but we do have that. But mostly it's word of mouth. I'll put up posts on Facebook, and it was hard in my first year because not only was I brand new to the position, but not coming from a hunting background, I really didn't have like a circle of friends who were hunters. So there wasn't a whole lot of people to ask in the first place. I had to build those connections slowly over time, but then we got momentum going. People come to the program and they love it and they tell their friends. And, we add new people every year. And then we also like to try and encourage the people who have gone through the program as new hunters for them to become mentors too. And we have some of those going. We have actually had our first, at least in Pennsylvania, our first student become a hunter ed instructor. So that's a good achievement for him.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's a fairly rigorous program to get into, isn't it? Even to be, I don't want to say it's not a license, is it, to be a hunter ed instructor, but it's you have to be certified. Is that a better term?
There is a process. I'm not sure what it is. I haven't gone through it myself, but yeah, they don't just let anyone in there.
So what makes a good mentor for people who are maybe interested in mentoring? I'll use myself for an example. I'm not opposed to mentoring. I've mentored personal friends and family. But when it comes to mentoring a stranger, I'm maybe on the fence about even feeling like I have enough expertise in the subject to explain it to a stranger. What would you say to folks in my position that are a little they're on the fence and they're not entirely certain they're a good enough of an educator to to pitch in that role?
I would say you are a lot better at it than you probably think you are. So it's a conversation, really. It's just an ongoing conversation with your mentee. It's not like you're delivering a classroom lecture or something like that. You're talking with a hunting buddy, and they're going to have some questions, and you're going to know the answers pretty much. Um, and if you don't, that's fine. I don't have all the answers. Um, Maybe you do, but I don't. But
For sure not.
Promise I don't.
I it actually it does surprise me, especially someone who started hunting as an adult. I surprise myself with how much I know based on the questions that people are asking me. It's like, wow, they just asked like 5 questions that I've never been asked before, and I knew all the answers. Now, part of that is because I work for the NDA and I'm exposed to all these experts around me, and I'm reading their articles and stuff all the time. But it's like, wow, I've come a long way in the past decade.
Yeah, very cool. I'll have to channel my inner Mark Kenyon and start spitting out things I've heard on the podcast. I do consume quite a few podcasts in the hunting space, so I just channel some of that out.
Yeah. I was a big Coffee and Deer fan. That was one of our NDA podcasts. We recently retired it, but it was such a good podcast. I'm actually listening to the old episodes right now. But yeah, all these. I love the Meat Eater podcast. Yeah, Wired to Hunt.
Yeah, I tune into those, and you guys have a 365 Deer Hunting 365 podcast still, correct?
Yep, run by Brian Grossman, and that's still going. And we're sort of, I guess, combining the two podcasts into one, and just continuing under one heading.
Gotcha. So, what are some parting thoughts you'd like to leave folks with as far as how they can get involved with National Deer Association, whether it's on a newcomer level or somebody that is looking to up their game and their just general deer hunting knowledge and stewardship practices?
I would say, at a minimum, sign up on our website to be a basic member. It's free. Just put your email address in there, and you'll get a newsletter every Thursday. And our newsletters are good. They're full of helpful information, blog articles, latest updates on what's going on with CWD and policy and action alerts and all kinds of stuff. We end each newsletter with a fun quiz. Guess how old the buck is based on its body characteristics. And we have a method for doing that. It's not an exact science, but it's fun to do. And you put in your vote, and the answers come out the following week. And we get a little explanation from the experts, and then they present you with a new deer, and enter the quiz again. Vote for what age you think that deer is. And then if you want further involvement, we do have paid memberships. We call them premium memberships. I believe they're $35, and you usually get some sort of like decal or whatever promo is going on at the time. Sometimes it's a hat, sometimes it's a gift card. Not sure what we're doing at the exact moment, but that helps us continue the work that we're doing because we are a nonprofit. And if you want to contribute to the future of wild deer, wildlife habitat, and hunting, that's what our premium memberships are for.
You also get a slew of discounts from different companies when you sign up for the paid membership. So if you're looking to upgrade your gear, it more or less pays for itself in discounts if you buy enough stuff.
Getting my wife
into
to
be frugal.
And then she spent a lot of money when she realized that hand-me-downs aren't as cool as the next coolest thing.
Yeah. I still use hand-me-downs, but yet, there's always some new thing to buy, if I was a duck hunter, I would be broke.
But
like a goose hunter.
Yeah.
There's a reason the other guys let me run my impulses.
If we buy another decoy, it'll be too many decoys. I'm telling you right now, because every single one of us has enough to put out a spread, and I just don't think I'm gonna sell mine
No,
because
you're not unless I'm buying them.
okay, we've got more than we need.
Yeah, at least deer don't decoy like ducks do, or I'd be double broke.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming on. It was great talking with you. We'll have to do it again sometime. I really appreciate your time. For everybody listening, if you like the show, please like and subscribe, rate it. All that stuff helps. Until next time, do more shit outside.
All right. Thank you for having me.